Weather says today, mostly sunny, chance of an afternoon thunderstorm. Probably the hottest day we're going to get all year, 96 degrees. Heat advisory is in effect until 8 o'clock on Wednesday night. Heat indices from 95 to 102 degrees. I don't know, Dr. Stone, does that seem warm enough to you?
Yeah, that's fairly warm.
Dr. Brian Stone joins us this morning. Our visit presented by Marcus and Mack, voted best law firm and best personal injury lawyer 3 years in a row in the Best of Indiana County contest. You can visit them online at marcusandmack.com. Sports medicine, there's probably no one better to talk to about heat and being safe in the heat than a guy like Dr. Brian Stone. He's in sports medicine at IRMC, which we should tell folks is not only based in the HMI building on the IRMC main campus, but also at IRMC at Chestnut.
Correct. So, yeah, and we've been at Chestnut Ridge in Blairsville since January. Reopened that area, so we have more exposure to patients. Make it easier for them to get to us. So.
Yeah, that's a great idea. All right, so let's break down some truths and some myths about heat and our ability to deal with it. And one of the difficulties that we always run into at this time of the year is in definitions. Everybody thinks I have heat stroke, and maybe some people do, but there's a difference between the various degrees of heat reaction. Heat stroke is just one of them.
Correct. So heat stroke is the most severe version. It is a medical emergency. Yeah, most people do not have heat stroke, but there are a few that are going to get it.
Mm-hmm.
So heat stroke, like we said, a medical emergency, your body starts to not be able to regulate its temperature. It actually fails at that point because you've had prolonged exposure to the heat, usually coupled with physical exertion, dehydration. And we've already gone through the others, which are heat exhaustion and heat cramps at that point. So, heat exhaustion, less severe, still pretty concerning, where your body's ability to regulate heat is starting to fail. And so, like we said just before I came in, you want to get people out of the heat, get them to a cooler area, start cooling the body temperature down.
We sometimes think that if somebody is in fantastic shape, that they're not as susceptible, and probably they aren't as susceptible as somebody whose health has different factors that involve age or a medical condition. But even super athletes, triathletes, their kidneys can shut down just like anybody else's.
Absolutely, yeah. So being in a decent physical shape, taking care of yourself, physically, nutritionally, can definitely help prevent that. But we're all susceptible to a certain degree. And so, yes, we do have those extreme athletes who can get heat exhaustion. Mm-hmm. Hopefully they know their body well enough to avoid heat stroke, but competitors being competitors can happen.
Yeah.
And so with most sporting events that are going to be in heat or extreme heat, usually there is some way to cool them until they can get to an ambulance.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. How serious can it be?
Heat stroke can be life-threatening. Yeah, absolutely. So if you can identify symptoms of heat stroke, which, like we said, was said right before I came in, facial flushing, hot, dry skin, they stop sweating at that point. Heart rate, their breathing are much faster. They may be confused. Mm-hmm. They're not, nausea, vomiting, dizzy. They're not looking right. You want to get them to a cooler area as fast as you can. Yeah. Remove excess clothing. Start cooling them. When you call 911, or seriously consider calling 911. Cooling, in sporting events, we will usually have a pool that we'll just dump them into to start cooling the core temperature down, which would be done rectally. And then we're waiting for the ambulance to get them to the hospital and more efficient cooling. Yeah. At home, some things you can do, get them to a pool, get them into a cool area, spray them down with a hose, cool compress or ice in the armpits, the groin, areas where we can start to cool the body temperature down fairly rapidly.
Yeah.
That's not something you want to mess around with.
There is a point at which the body temperature itself gets way too high, and that's when the problems really really occur?
Yeah, so heat stroke typically occurs above 104 degrees Fahrenheit when your body's overheated. Chances are you've been in heat, you've had heat cramps and some heat exhaustion. You just keep pushing through at that point to get to heat stroke. So, you know, ways to prevent that, just recognizing what's going on with the temperature, recognizing what you can do, realistically, understanding your body. Again, proper nutrition. There are certain medications that can make you more at risk for these. So if you're taking water pills, if you're taking certain, they're called antihistamines, some anti-seizure medications, all of these can disrupt they have what's called an anticholinergic effect. And so you don't sweat as much, and they can, or the diuretics, you're losing your water. And so you don't have enough to keep yourself hydrated, and your temperature can raise.
Dr. Brian Stone with this IRMC Sports Medicine joining us. We're talking about heat, of course. Today is going to be an extremely hot day. When someone suffers through heat stroke and their body in one form or another reacts so adversely, can the damage to certain organs be permanent or at least change your life forever?
Certainly, yeah. If your body is at that temperature, organs can start to cook. You can have lasting internal damage. You can have brain damage. Again, heat stroke is not something that we want to mess with. You want to identify those symptoms, identify people who are going to be out. So people who are working, athletes who are out getting those summer reps for football already, or getting ready for whatever off season or whatever fall sport. Coaches, keep an eye out on your athletes. Recognize how hot it's going to be. I know in the Army they use the wet bulb globe temperature as a heat index, and so over certain levels there is a work rest cycle, and it alternates depending on it changes depending on the level of the heat index, and that is so that you can still get some work, but you allow that time to cool off, rehydrate, replenish electrolytes if you need to. Avoiding those heat injuries.
Yeah, I picture the people who are working road construction crews, the people who are up on a roof reshingling, all of those folks. Their heat is much hotter than the heat that others are experiencing, and they have to follow basically the same guidelines.
I would hope so. Yes. So the different organizations, there should be some kind of plan in place so that they can prevent these heat injuries. Prevent injuries to their employees, and ultimately lost time.
Yeah. Children, older adults, more at risk.
So yeah, younger children, older adults, pregnant mothers, definitely at risk. Anybody, like we said, in poor physical health, so obesity goes along with that. Diabetics, people with cardiovascular disease. Those types of people are all at a little bit higher risk.
Let's talk about hydration. What should we be hydrating with? I would assume that there are certain drinks to avoid and certain drinks that are going to be more helpful.
Yes, so certainly alcohol, and you shouldn't be drinking on the job anyway, folks, but alcohol is one of those drinks that will certainly put you at risk. Sodas, teas, caffeinated beverages can put you at risk. So if you're going to be working outside, water, sports drinks, something to replenish the electrolytes, something to rehydrate yourself. So, and then there's always the debate about water versus Powerade or Gatorade. So with activity, generally, if it's under an hour or so and you're eating well, water is fine. Water is pretty much the gold standard. If you're going to do intense activity greater than an hour, then you need to start really replenishing those electrolytes. And so that's when you start looking at Gatorade, Powerade, Pedialyte, any of the ones that will have those salts that will help to replenish.
And while some people won't have the opportunity to plan ahead of time, we should probably load up on those beverages and hydrate hours before or even days before, correct?
So, right. So if you know that you're going to be working outside, hydrating preemptively is a great idea. Um, you don't want to wait until you're thirsty to drink. So you want, if you are working outside and you're able to, I would drink a little bit of water periodically, take a break. Um, every 10, 15 minutes, make sure you rehydrate. And so if you wait till you're thirsty, it's too late. And so
Yeah.
some people will monitor urine to see, the color. If it's very clear, okay, you're okay. If it's just a little bit yellow, it's okay. As it starts to get darker and darker, you're dehydrated and you really need to catch up.
Yeah. Yeah, all of these things to deal with heat. Of course, the elderly who don't get out and aren't outside really working out, but they're sitting in a house that doesn't have air conditioning, they could be susceptible to dehydration as well, correct?
Absolutely. So it's important, especially with these really hot, humid days, to make sure that you are hydrating and taking care of yourself. Even if it doesn't feel like it's you're losing a lot of heat or moisture, it doesn't feel like you're dehydrating. You definitely want to make sure we're taking care of ourselves with that, especially on these super hot days.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so we're dealing with the heat the best that we can. Dr. Brian Stone and everybody else at IRMC Sports Medicine there to help you in case there is a difficulty for you. When we think about, and just help me with this because I'm going to let you go, but I got to ask you this question.
I was looking at the temperature for the next week, and it's still going to be hot.
Yeah,
so.
It is. It is. I was going to ask you this off topic, but maybe not as much as we think. Tyrese Halliburton had that calf problem in the NBA Finals. His calf kept cramping up and everything. He ends up pulling his or tearing his Achilles tendon in Game 7 the other day. Natural offshoot, and would hydration have helped that calf cramping issue? No.
The calf cramping, caveat, I'm not a huge NBA fan, so sorry, but I did watch the video. With a tight calf, especially with his running and jumping, that's going to be one of those the muscles that he uses a lot. And so tight calf, yeah, he absolutely should have stayed hydrated. I'm sure he did. His trainers and the team seem to make sure that they do well. It may have just been a chronic injury that eventually led to the Achilles. So the calf comes down and they form a real big tendon called your Achilles tendon. And so if the calf has been a problem for a while, this was probably something that was lingering.
Yeah.
Just popped.
Yeah, there you
That's
go.
what we all saw.
There, yes, yes, as we did. And granted, most of us aren't doing NBA level stuff.
Probably not, right.
Dr. Stone, thanks so much for the visit.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
It is the voice of Indiana County. It's WCCS 101.1 FM, AM 1160, WCCSradio.com.
76 degrees in Indiana. Good morning. I'm Matt Lewis on WCCS 101.1 FM, AM 1160, and WCCSradio.com. 8:30 on this 24th day of June 2025. If it gets too hot, several agencies in Indiana County are opening up to give people some relief. Aging Services Social Centers will open up as cooling facilities for those who need it. The Indiana location will be open from 8:30 to 4, while the Chestnut Hills facility in Blairsville will be open from 8:30 to 2:30. Facilities in Salzburg will be open from 9:30 to 2:30 today and 1 to 7 tomorrow, and the Tulick Valley Center in Clymer will be open from 8:30 to 4. Chevy Chase Community Center will be open from 9 to 2 Monday through Friday, and the Indiana Free Library is open as well for their normal hours. Veterans and their immediate families who use the James E. Van Zandt VA Center in Altoona can utilize it as a cooling center from 8 a.m. to 10 p.m. today through Thursday and 8 a.m. to 4:30 on Friday. The River Valley School Board is expected to approve their 2025-26 budget at tonight's meeting. The preliminary budget called for no tax increase, but the spending plan on tonight's agenda includes an increase of 5.4%. From 15.95 mils for Indiana County residents to 16.82 mils. The increase for Westmoreland County residents would be another 5.83 mils. Last month, the board did not include any potential tax increases as board president Rick Harper said they were still looking at cuts and other ways to fill the $900,000 budget gap. Also tonight, Renda Media and Digital will present the River Valley School District with a Pennsylvania Association of Broadcasters grant of $61,185. The money will go towards the district's communications media and production program. The meeting will start at 7 o'clock at the Salzburg STEAM Academy. State police have charged a Clymer man with disorderly conduct after an incident early Saturday morning. Troopers were sent to an apartment complex in the 200 block of 6th Street in Clymer for a welfare check and found 26-year-old Zachary Slate under the influence of alcohol and a controlled substance. He became irate at the troopers, slamming doors and throwing dish soap in the hallway, and screamed and swore at the officers while outside the building. 2 charges of disorderly conduct were filed with District Judge Christopher Welch's office. WCCS News Time 8:33. This news brought to you by the Allied Milk Producers, and your AccuWeather forecast is brought to you by IRMC at Chestnut Ridge. Get in, get out, get better. .76 degrees in Indiana. In our news at 9 o'clock, a Center Township man claims a road in his neighborhood is in such bad condition that it's a danger for people who live along it, including the residents of a trailer park. Take WCCS wherever you go using your mobile device or computer. Find the Listen Live link at WCCSradio.com, brought to you by Indiana Regional Medical Center, Community Living and Learning, and Flower and Balloon Gallery. I'm Matt Lewis for WCCS, News Time 8:35. Time for sports with Todd Marino.
All right, Matt, we talk Bucko baseball with you next. Another win for the Pirates after this from Luther Forest.